really excited to do this event. This is our second year, as Sarah mentioned, and it's one of those times where we have an opportunity to really talk about these conversations. Last year when we started, it was a big experiment. We didn't know exactly how the community would engage with the conversation, but what we've found is that this topic is really important. So in coordination with kicking off this event last year, we launched a group called the CEO Roundtable. And the CEO Roundtable for us was an opportunity to take those most senior members of teams and really talk about how are we creating cultures of inclusion and creating an opportunity to leverage the talent of everyone around the table. So we decided as we were kicking off today's event that we would ask a number of the members who have been participating on that committee with us over the last year to engage in some conversations that we've been talking about, that we've been dealing with, and what we think really impact our organizations, because at the end of the day, the conversation to create more inclusive cultures tends to start at the top. And so the more that we can drive those conversations and figure out the issues and create repeatable programs and best practices, the stronger we are as an organization and a community and an ecosystem. And so that's what we're really after, is how do we do that? Because what we've learned in our discussion over the last year is that it is actually not about the conversation of diversity, it is about creating high-performing teams. And that it is the fact that when we have diverse, high-performing teams, companies outperform. And so how do we build that just ingrained into our cultures and make sure that we're learning from each other and doing really great things? And so I'm really happy to have 3 of those members working with us today. And so we're going to do just these keynote conversations over the next 30 minutes with each one of them, so we can talk about those issues and learn a little bit about how they're thinking and what we can do together to move this forward. So I'm really excited to introduce Sharon. She is with Dealertrack, which is fairly new to Utah, which we're going to talk a little bit about. So Sharon, why don't you join me, and we'll kick off our series. Join me in welcoming her. I know, I'm thinking I might add stairs on that side.
I thought about it. I thought about walking across. I thought that would be the safer thing to do.
Well, thank you for joining us and being part of our community. I mean, Dealertrack, we've really had an opportunity to get to know you and engage in your organization over the last year. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what Dealertrack is and Cox in general, because you're part of a very large corporation.
We are. And that's good and bad oftentimes, and I think we'll talk about that over the next couple of minutes. But Dealertrack purchased a company here locally in South Jordan by the name of Arcona back in 2007, and since then we've been rebranded as Dealertrack. But in 2015, October of 2015, we were acquired by Cox Enterprises, and they have an automotive group. They also have a big cable company, a big communication company.
I'm sorry,
Am I not
can you just make sure your mic's switched on? They can hear you.
Hello? Hello?
It's on. There you go.
It's maybe just not high enough?
Go higher or switch to the other side if you need to. Yeah, and at any time, if the back can't hear, just wave your hands furiously, and we will pick up on that.
How's
Right.
that?
Is that better?
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. So Dealertrack was acquired by Cox Enterprises. They have a large automotive presence. That's the group that we are part of. But they also are better known broadly for their communications and their cable businesses. So they're based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and we're lucky enough to be here in Utah.
Which is really great. So talk to us a little bit, you've got this, and we have many companies like you, right, who have national headquarters elsewhere and who have fairly large offices here. As you have been thinking about recruiting talent, like what does that look like for you here? And how have you been thinking about that strategy? I mean, we're aware that you've been thinking extensively about this over the last year, right, and been even faced with issues you're trying to solve. So what does that look like in your world right now?
Yeah, let me back up a bit and express that we doubled the size of our team member base last year. So heading into 2016, we had about 350 employees, and we ended last year just over 700. We're poised to hire about another 250 this year. And so it's a big problem for us. When you're hiring and constantly hiring and recruiting, it's something that you don't think about when you post a position or every once in a while. It's something we think about every day, every week when we're talking about it in a leadership team perspective. And so the challenge that we face is the challenge that many of you who raised your hand when you asked if you're in HR or in a leadership position face, which is how do I make my business more interesting to the very, very few recruits that are available and out there looking for a new position in technology industry, but certainly locally here in the Utah Valley. So what we do is try to compete at a different level. And we've had a number of different approaches to that. Some have worked and some have not.
Oh, so can I ask you what hasn't worked?
One thing that hasn't worked, from our opinion, is compensating our existing employees to refer other team members. And it's not that we didn't get great team members from the referrals, but what happened, or what seemed to happen, is we got more and more of our employees to refer other family members. And the challenge, when you're growing as fast as we are, and you're getting referrals of family members and family members and family members, is you create this situation where you can't have one reporting to another, you can't have a sister in the same group as a brother reporting to the same manager. And it just created for us a challenge where we were then limited as to how we could organize these team members in our structure. And even more so when we went to promote them, we would have challenges by saying, oh, we can't promote you into this group because you have a family member in this group, or we'd love to promote you over here, but then you'd be working for your sister, so that doesn't work either. So it just became a bit of a challenge for us.
So interesting. And one of the conversations I wanted to have with you is, how are you thinking? I mean, you're a woman who's running, right, this division, and you're in all of those senior leadership positions. And so I know you're also thinking about, how do we hire diverse talent?
Yes.
Right? Like, how do we create diverse teams? So what have you found that you are doing, or that's creating and attracting that talent into the organization today?
There's really two things that we're focusing on there. One is relatively new, so I'll come back maybe and tell you whether it's working for us or not. But it's fairly well known that in Utah, maybe more than in other states, the number of college students who start college and don't finish is higher as a rate of dropout, or however you want to categorize that, than a lot of other places. We're lucky enough to be part of a really large corporation that has a diversity and inclusion goal and is very, very focused on that, not only at our corporate headquarters, but within our satellite offices that we're a part of here. And so what we've done is approached the colleges and said, we have this great corporation, we have this need for a lot of new team members, and we have the need for a lot of new team members, not only in leadership positions, but also in entry-level positions. So as you have students in your college who find themselves not able to complete their college degree, let us know. Let us help. Oftentimes we can't solve for it, but sometimes if it's a financial burden that the student can't solve for, we can. And the way that we can solve for that is approaching that student, giving them the tuition reimbursement program that we have as part of our corporation, and putting them into one of those entry-level positions that doesn't require a college education. The benefit then is we're able to help a lot of these young women, and some of them also are a different race, and we're able to help them financially. We're able to get them in the door and get their foot into our company, and it's perfect because in that entry-level position, they get to know our customers, they get to know our industry, they understand the terminology, they get a basic understanding of the technology that we're providing to our customers, and as they're completing their degree, they're then in a perfect position to also be able to take that next step that might require a college degree from a recruiting perspective into a leadership or into a technology role in the same company. So it's a win-win for us. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it's a win for the student. Hopefully we help solve the situation for them. And like I said, typically it is a financial burden that they simply can't overcome.
That's really interesting. Have you rolled that out here?
We have rolled it out here.
And like, what does that look like? How many students if you were willing to share, how does that look as you go into your company?
Yeah, so the number of, as I mentioned before, the number of new hires that we've hired in the last year is a little bit astounding. And in those entry-level positions, there have been about 200.
Wow.
Now, some of those positions are field-level positions, so they're on Delta airplanes most of the time, or out in the market that we serve, which is the entire United States. And so for them, it's not as easy to overcome that situation, and maybe there's online education that they can take part of because they're physically not here. But we have a large call center that's also physically here in South Jordan, and in that case, our year-over-year hiring percentage, we hired about 80 new employees in that call center last year, and of those, about 15%, or about 15 of them are taking us up on this particular offer.
That's I mean, having had my my graduate program paid for by a company, it makes a difference in your ability to get through those.
But oftentimes you can't get in the door, right?
Right.
Without the
Fair.
undergraduate degree
That's right.
to be able to get your master's degree paid for by the company.
Yeah, we've been thinking deeply around this university issue of the attrition that we even see in the STEM fields. In women in technology, we lose at least half of them that start as their freshman year going into STEM degrees when they actually graduate. So we think often about how do we help pipeline, and we believe industry is a really big answer to that. So I just have a couple of kind of final questions around here. I'm really interested to know, kind of give me a couple of thoughts around, what do you think the difference is when you have a diverse team, when you have men and women working together on problems? What's the impact that you actually see?
What was that book? Women are from Venus and men are from Mars, or something like that. We come at problems from a different perspective, right? It's the age-old issue, whether it's in relationships or marriages or in the workforce. But in these cases, when trying to solve for complex problems, when trying to solve for deep thinking strategy issues, having a diverse base of people working on those problems allows you to feel better about the fact that when you roll that out, whether it's a new product or whether it's a new strategy, whether it's a new pricing or marketing program, that it's going to be reflective of a diverse market that you're trying to reach as well, whether it's your customers or whether it's prospects or even a recruiting market.
That's right. It's a really good reminder. I've been reading a bunch of the AI information. This is one of their core issues, right? How do we make sure as we even evolve technology that you have diverse perspectives integrated in, because they make a difference in decision making and they really impact that. So give us kind of as your ending statement, what is one of your, as you talk to other companies, what is one of your recommendations that you give to them to say, this is what you should do to create cultures for high performing teams?
So most companies, regardless of the size, have some sort of strategy component in their leadership team, right? It could be a part-time job of the marketing person, or it could be a full-time role in the company. And that's great. But a lot of companies don't have a full-time culture person on the leadership team, somebody who's thinking about culture and how that culture retains your current talent and also reaches out into the community in order to recruit other talent. And so we have a culture team at Dealertrack. I sit on the culture team. Sometimes they all look at me for an answer, and I try and no, I'm just here to contribute. We're a team. But they do amazing things, and we're constantly in the community reaching out. We have these, really ugly green shirts that we wear. They're kind of neon, right, so that we stand out and so that people know that it's us, but it does make a difference. I'm amazed when I meet with each of our new hire classes at the number of people who said, I saw you at the Susan J. Komen race for Cure, or we saw you in your green shirts working out in the community at River Park or at the food bank or wherever it happens to be. That's important for new people to think about. I'm signing up for this company because I have a lot of choices here in the Valley. I'm signing up to work at this company because I not only am excited about the opportunity, but I believe in their culture and what they're trying to do for their team members as well as in the community.
Well, thank you. And thank you for taking time and for the opportunity to kick this off with us. Please join me in thanking Sharon for participating. Thank you, Sharon.